Unbelievable.
Hello and welcome to the video review of the fellas reviewing the Mr McMahon documentary. So I know this is a bit late. We have been waiting on John. And,
John, there's a dig.
I didn't really, mate. Cheers.
We have been waiting on John just to get this across the line.
That wasn't a wise move.
But I'm firing you up. I want some absolute fire on old Vinnie Mac. But yeah, very interesting documentary from start to finish. And yeah, where do you want to start with this one, lads? Is we're just going to start from episode 1, or do you want to just like talk over points? Because not really sure how to cover this, in all honesty.
Well, I've got the list of what each episode went through. So if we go through each episode and then we talk about our thoughts on it. So episode 1 focused on WWE's evolution. I'm reading it off Bleacher Report, so it's got like little bits on what it was all about. So the first episode of the documentary opened with a message about how filming began. So it obviously started in 2021. After a few comments from those interviewed, another message was shown saying Vince's final planned interview never took place due to the breaking news of the whole Janelle Grant is her name.
Janelle.
Yeah.
And that he was stepping down as CEO of WWE. Clips played of a news anchor talking about an investigation into Vince's hush money payments to women and some details of the lawsuit filed by Janelle Grant. Then a message appeared stating that those of the interviews were conducted before those allegations were made. So everything made in this interview was done before the allegations came forward. So when you watch the documentary and you're like, okay, I can see that happening, kind of thing, as it goes on. In summary, the documentary producers let us know right off the bat that most of what was covered in the 6 episodes would likely be unrelated to the lawsuit by Janelle Grant. And then what followed for the first episode was roughly 45 minutes of interviews with wrestlers like Hulk Hogan and Bret Hart, other people in the business like Shane and Bischoff, and media members such as Bob Costas and good old knobhead Dave Meltzer. So try and stay impartial. We heard stories from Vince about his childhood, his unconventional relationship with his father, his rise through the ranks and eventual purchase of the promotions, and his national expansion, which put him at odds with the promoters in every major territory. The first episode was briefly covered a lawsuit against WWE by reporter John Stossel, which was settled in 1987, and another lawsuit filed in 1990 by Richard Belzer after he was choked out on his talk show by Hulk Hogan. So that was the first episode. So it was really the beginnings of Vince McMahon, or Mr. McMahon.
So I didn't realise that Vince had such a poor upbringing. Poor as in monetary value, like poor, and that he didn't really get in touch with Vince Senior until he was 12, which is for me, in my mind, I just thought Vince is part of some rich family and had a privileged upbringing, but it was the opposite. Of that. That was quite interesting. A lot of the other stuff they brought up, like those lawsuits. I know the David Schultz one, the one where he slaps the other guys saying wrestling's fake.
That was in episode 3, wasn't it? That one they spoke about that one. So these ones, the lawsuit reported by John Stossel. Can't remember what that one was. That was in 1987. But the one in 1990, when Hulk Hogan was on the show and he asked him to do a move on him, and Hogan choked him out, and Vince fined him. I think
Ted's right. The other one, I think, is where he's doing a backstage thing, and he says about wrestling being fake, and the guy slaps him.
That's in this episode,
Matt. That's our one.
That's the John Stossel one, because John Stossel sued WWE for his eardrum for losing hearing in one of his ears.
It has been 3 weeks since I last watched this, so I'm just going off this.
Because that, to be honest, I did know about that one because of Dark Side of the Ring. They did a full episode on it, so it was spoke about. So I knew kind of that sort of interaction. But yeah, it was very interesting. That the facts that. Sorry, let me start that again. It was very interesting that the facts that we got from the Dark Side of the Ring documentary about that incident compared to what we got in the Netflix, that Vince sent David Schultz for the interview according to Dark Side of the Ring, whereas on the Netflix side, it was that David Schultz did it on his own accord. So there's already
with the Netflix documentary, the whole 5 episodes, I think this was made to make Vince look good. I don't think the initial. I don't think this was the initial setup for this was to portray Vince in any other light than
I agree.
As a multi-billionaire man that made pro wrestling the way it has. I think what's come out has made views different. So I think there's a few things throughout it that is we've heard one side on other stuff, and in this documentary they've portrayed it another way because that's the way Vince wanted it to be told.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the ones where Vince is not going to admit that he sent him to do that. No, not in an interview that's meant to make Vince McMahon look good.
So I think, also my overall take from this documentary is we're not the target audience for this. As I say, we're us as wrestling like us as quite big wrestling fans that have watched everything. I feel this is for like your neutrals. This documentary and all.
Yeah. You're not meant to know the full background of everything that's gone in and what wrestling is. Watching this, you're not meant to, because it doesn't help your prejudgment on your judgment on a lot of people. If you're going in like stuff in there, you're going, if you don't know, you're like, oh right, okay.
So,
but if you know stuff that we know, you start going, hang on a fucking minute, that looks all premeditated and prejudged.
Well,
ready to, you know.
So it's funny you say that. My brother-in-law came to me last week and said, I watched that Mr McMahon documentary. He's never watched wrestling. He doesn't know what it is. Well, he knows what it is, obviously, but
yeah.
So I said, well, what do you think? And he's like, he was a fucking crazy bastard. Were. And I was like, that's not the half of it, mate. Like, that documentary was melted down to make him look a certain way. I was like, if I told you half the shit that he's done or what was on TV at the time, you would look at him a different light than what you do now. One of
the girls in work said the same thing. She says he's had a mad life, hasn't he? And this and that, like almost speaking positive, like bad for him. And I was like, no, you do not want to speak in light of that.
The only thing he said that was good, that I agreed with, was he said, like, it's mad what he's done for the wrestling business. Like, the company he's grew with WWE and made it into what it is mental. And then I was like, yeah, but the person he is, away from me, if you take that, what he's done for WWE, because we can all have our opinions on it, what he's done for WWE is mental. But yeah, personal life, if you take away what he was doing, what he did for WWE, and just look at what he was doing backstage in Hush Money, and all these lawsuits that came out, then you're looking at him a different total light than what you are now.
I think a thing is, right, like you said, till the age of 12, he lived in an abusive family.
I didn't know he was abused as a child, me.
And then the 12-year-old, right? So that's not going to set you up well for life. But then you're going to be picked up by a multi-billionaire and given a life of luxury. That there is not going to help you, because you're going from literally one to the other. There's no in between there. There's no working your way up to that and developing the character. You're going from being abused to having everything, but not getting no love at all. And that's a crucial part of this as well, because it recircles in one of the later episodes. And I think that there is why Vince McMahon is the way he is.
Mm-hmm.
Because he went from one end of the scale to the other. So having nothing to having everything. You think about some people when they get given a management role, when they've been literally the sweeper of the shop. They've been straight in the management, goes to the head, they get power hungry, become a completely different person. They think they're untouchable.
Yeah.
The other thing as well, the only praise I have for him after watching this as well is he is the greatest showman,
promoter.
Barnes, something I can't think of the name, the character of the wrestling world. Without him, wrestling doesn't exist. Something like that, yeah. Without Vince McMahon, wrestling doesn't exist.
I agree.
It sticks in its territories, we probably wouldn't see it because it was set in its own ways, and we would still have wrestlers on TV going by the names the Garbage Man and the Plumber. But the man's a fucking nutcase. The stuff that he quoted in there, and he said, and obviously later episodes about having two brains and what his second brain thinks about, and you can see that's a predator.
Yeah,
that's a predator, 100%. But that first episode, I think that first episode was laid out to make us feel sorry for Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Yeah, I think throughout this whole documentary,
we were meant to feel sorry for him.
No, I'm talking about Vince at the moment. Throughout this whole documentary, it's made me look at the people that were doing interviews. Made me look at him differently.
Yeah, a lot.
There's a few people that I look at him now and I go, "You're a twat."
Oh, it's changed my opinion on someone massively, and I know you're not going to like it when I get to him.
Oh, I know who it is.
He's number 3. That's in episode number 3, in it. I say that'll come up.
We've already spoke about it. We spoke about it Saturday.
Yeah, but it's the whole thing, and then there's one person I genuinely feel massively sorry for out of all of it. That comes in later. It's one of the later episodes. I think 5. We'll get into that person.
Mm-hmm.
Change my opinion on somebody in a different way as well. But yeah, first episode, it was just setting the grounds. It was giving you the backstory. Like I say, this is aimed for neutrals to understand who is Vincent Kennedy McMahon. If you've never watched wrestling, who is Vincent Kennedy McMahon?
Yeah.
And that's what that did.
So episode 2 led to, it would start of like just after WrestleMania, when it is into the early the early 90s.
Yeah, so
late 80s.
Yeah, it kicked off with Vince McMahon performing Stand Back. Where he was obviously dancing around different women and different superstars playing instruments. Moved to the network television where Saturday night's main event was briefly covered before the topic moved on to Jesse Ventura's failed attempt to start a union. Hogan openly admitted to telling Vince about it and positioned it as him being on Vince's team, but Bret referred to the move as double cross. He quickly moved on to cover some of the first WrestleManias, including difficulties of broadcasting from 3 cities for WrestleMania 2. The rise of Hulkamania was discussed, including WWE taking merchandise sales of $200 million in the early 90s. The focus then shifted to the famous WWE steroid trial. Phil Mushnick was interviewed about his early coverage of Vince McMahon and pro wrestling, and people like Vince and Bruce Pritchard spoke about him having some kind of vendetta against the owner. The death of Jimmy Snuka's girlfriend, Nancy Argentino, was briefly mentioned before the Ring Boy scandal was covered. Tony Atlas was claimed to have been sexually harassed by Pat Patterson, but most people who spoke claimed Patterson was unfairly lumped into the Ring Boy scandal with Mel Phillips and Terry Garvin. Rita Chatterton's accusations that Vince raped her were also addressed by Vince himself, while footage of Chatterton described the event many years ago on the Gerald show. The former CEO claimed it was a consensual affair, and WCW and Hogan's signing with the competition were also covered, as was his involvement in the steroid trial. The episode ended with a message state that Vince dropped the defamation lawsuit against Chatterton in '94, only to end up paying him millions of dollars in settlement. So there's a lot covered in that one. So obviously, like Ted said, the start of it was talking about the boom of the 90s and Hogan and how much money he made and stuff like that. Obviously, WrestleMania was mentioned, but then Jesse Ventura's failed attempt to start a union, which was nothing new for me. We all knew about that.
Yeah, he's talked about it recently. He's re-signing. I think that was the beginning of, for me, obviously I don't see him in good light, but that was the beginning of me sort of seeing how much of a snake Hogan is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a massive stooge. And the fact of the whole steroid thing as well, like, an episode, Vince said, I told him to go on and be honest, and he did an interview about it. He says, I told him to go on and be honest, and he didn't. He went on and lied about it. And he's like, no, Vince never told me to take it, and that's what he said. But he also said, I've only ever took steroids once. But then there's video footage of wrestlers saying, no, he took it more than once because I injected him with it, and then I did it. Hogan hasn't done it. Hogan hasn't come out of these documentaries in a good light in any shape or form.
I don't think Hogan's been mentioned enough by people.
Yeah.
No.
I've not heard anyone mention anything bad about Hulk Hogan after coming of these. So I don't agree with that, John. I don't think it's done anything. It's the same because people know what he's
No,
like.
that's what I'm saying. It hasn't. I mean,
Oh, you
as
mean
it
it's
hasn't
not
improved.
Right, I got you. Sorry.
The look on him. He hasn't gone in there and gone, oh well, no, Vince was, and tried to save his character. That's taken a massive dive in recent years. He's not tried to come out on any cleaner, clean up a few things
Yeah.
for himself. He hasn't. He's just gone in and gone, yeah, no, I did this because I didn't want people to think I took steroids. Well, we all know you did. You're not helping yourself here.
Yeah.
One thing I did feel sorry for is when he wanted to make movies, and Vincent Kennedy McMahon Sr. said no.
Yeah.
So he left the company, went and made the movies, and then Vince brought him back. And that was the beginning of the Hulkamania movement because of how successful that Rocky movie was.
And then they made No Holds Barred, which was an absolute dud.
Him and Vince fucking locked themselves in a room and read it.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Imagine them steroids.
The whole steroid thing, like I say, it's nothing new to us. We knew that.
We knew that. We knew what was coming out. The only thing I didn't know is that when Hogan went to WCW, the FBI got hold of him and said, "Well, we've got stuff on you that we can release unless you come out and talk against Vince McMahon." And he said, "Okay." He went to the courtroom and denied Vince having any part of it, which threw it all out.
That's so dumb. Like, surely as the FBI, you get your ducks in a row, so you've got fucking Hogan banged to rights if he fucks you over. See, it's absolutely so dumb that the American government.
They give him thingy. No, the part of the agreement they're going into court, they give him where he can't be touched, no matter what he said.
Diplomatic, it's immunity.
Yeah, they give him immunity. That was the agreement. Hogan going into court, he had immunity, no matter what he said on that court. He knew what he was doing. His lawyer probably would have advised him, but he knew exactly what he was doing. He got immunity, walked in there and got, nah, Vince had nothing to do with it.
He turned around to Vince after it and said, "If you go down, I'll go down with you."
Yeah.
Went to WCW.
Yeah. They left WWE or WWF at the time because he felt
I'll go to the competition,
he was going stale.
But I'll stay by you. Don't worry.
It felt it was going stale. He promised Vince that he wouldn't perform anywhere in the US in a wrestling ring. But then WCW came along, offered him better money and less of a work rate.
Yeah.
And brought him in.
No comment.
Idiot.
So obviously then it moved on to Phil Mushnick being interviewed about Vince and pro wrestling. I can't remember that bit. I'm not going to lie to you. Vince and Bruce.
He was in New York. I think it's New York's Times.
Yeah, he was.
Right.
Oh, actually, I have got an issue with this guy. I've just looked at my notes and I have wrote something on him. So he says it later on about Eddie and Benoit. That he says that fans don't care about wrestlers dying, all they care about is what's coming next on TV. I don't hate to tell you, mate, but I cried when Eddie Guerrero died. And Chris Benoit.
So that's another comment that brings me back to this was not made for the hardcore wrestling fans. Because you make that comment. Honestly, God, if we were in a room and it was like a seminar with this guy talking about the history of wrestling through the eyes of a journalist, and he made that comment, I would rattle back. I'm like, I absolutely do care about it. We still talk to this day of Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah.
And how good in rings, and we go dream matches and this and that. Right, we don't talk about Benoit as much because of what came out from Benoit. But if Benoit died from a heart attack, then it'd be a totally different situation. We would be going, geez, could you imagine Benoit wrestling
Brian?
Or Benoit putting over Chad Gable in a technical wrestling match.
Omega gets fucking spoke about now with the bloodline stuff.
Yeah. Yoko, the Andre still talk. We don't care. We don't move on to the next one because these are the ones that paved the ways for them ones to come along.
We care about these characters when these characters come onto TV, someone connects with, bar the few odd ones that don't. You connect to them. So we'll take Bray Wyatt.
I was just about to say Bray.
Because that's the one all three of us can relate to. Bray Wyatt passed away. Like, we came on air and did a thing, and then I did it on camera, but after we stopped filming, came away, I started crying. And, like, I still, when I hear his music, I get upset now. And it's like, how can you say we don't care? I know it's not aimed at us, but how can you say wrestling fans don't care about wrestlers that die when I'm still feeling the fallout from
Still
Bray
grieving
dying.
in a way. It's a weird. It is such a shit thing to say. It's such a dumb thing to say.
Stupid. Obviously, Jimmy Snuka's girlfriend got brought up. Nancy Argentino.
So this thing is mad. So I've known about this for a while.
It got brought up a couple of years ago, didn't it?
Yeah, I watched a lot of a podcast that I listened to called Crime in Sport, and they covered this years ago, and it's insane, this thing. So Jimmy Snuka was caught in the room where this girl died or had this accident, right? The police had him banged to rights, had him arrested. Vince walked in with this is something it doesn't cover. Let's say it covers a watered down version. Vince walked in with a briefcase full of money. Jimmy Snuka walked out with no charges and everything dropped. Let's say that's just fucking insane.
Yeah, but if you compare that to modern times, and I'm going to take somebody that we've spoken about on the main event quite recently, you look at that, right? So he stood by Snuka. Sounds like he's paid off to get Snuka cleaned. Snuka has had a Legends contract. He's looked after Snuka. Tamina's there. Then you got Enzo Amore. Got accused of something. Got released. Didn't get stood by.
Last night. Yeah.
Didn't get stood by. Didn't get, look, we'll stand by it until we'll, see what happened. Nope. Got released. And got cleared of it. But then has sort of been blacklisted in the wrestling world to a degree. But Snuka, potentially, obviously we will never know what happened. Potentially killed someone.
He did kill her. Oh, 1,000,000%. I have no doubt.
Got let back on TV.
I have got no doubt in my mind that man killed that woman. I think it was an accident. I will give you that. He shoved her and she hit her head on a bed.
Well,
and that's what killed her.
Thing here. I've just Googled it because I weren't sure what actually happened. I thought it was something else. There's a big timeline of everything that went on. I'm obviously not going to read through everything.
It was a car ride, wasn't it? Is that she hit her head? They got out of the car after a fucking massive shouting match. Room. Yeah.
And he claimed to the police that they were horsing around, and she fell and hit her head. And when then the police, when the nurse got there, her pupils were dilated, which shown it was a concussion. So she didn't just fall; it looked like she'd been shoved.
Yeah, we'll get into concussions in a little while.
But I like that. Then I didn't know the full extent of that. I knew you can tell when something's serious when you don't hear or see them again. And Jimmy Snuka, when all that came out again, I think early 2020s was it that it came out, or late 2010s when it all came out, pre or after COVID, I can't remember which one it was. He's not mentioned on TV. There's no video packages of him jumping off the cage anymore. Tamina went disappearing. Like, they don't mention it in the Bloodline storyline at all.
That's it. I think with Vince as well, I think if you were a Vince guy and you stood by him, he had your back.
Yeah, definitely.
But if you weren't, he didn't. Because if you look at that, and obviously I mentioned Enzo, but if you go back to that era, look at the ones that struggled coming out of that era. Jake the Snakes.
Yeah.
Scott Hall. They weren't Vince's guys because they were happy. Scott jumped to WCW. Piper. And they had the battle of their own demons, and someone like Dally had to come round to save them.
Yeah.
Perry Saturn right now. Perry Saturn's gone through, and I believe that WWE have stepped in to help Perry Saturn.
Yeah, they have.
But it's took me ages to fucking do so.
But that's because of the change of fucking of ownership of the company, and to do that. Vince has had to go for Triple H and Nick Khan, whoever it is that's involved in doing that, and gone, right, we need to look after.
And I'm sure it was, once again, it was Daly coming in going, look,
he
needs our help.
Yeah.
Obviously, Daly can only help so many people on his own. And it's right, and this is that wellness policy, you know what I mean? It's not just for your in ring, it's the guys that give the body before. But Vince looked after Vince's guys 100%. And it shows, I think, in episode 3 when they'd start talking about the Montreal screw job.
So there's a couple of things that we haven't covered about episode 2 that need bringing up.
Well, I'm just about to do that then, mate. Were you talking about Pat Patterson?
So that's one of them.
Right, so let me just talk about Pat Patterson first. I don't agree with any of it. He's not done any of that shit.
Pat Patterson's a fall guy because he was openly gay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They knew they would believe it because it was Pat, because he was gay.
Yeah.
That's the reason why. Pat Patterson, Triple H talks about Pat Patterson now. They talk about him in commentary of how amazing he was at his job and a wrestler, and obviously first ever Intercontinental Champion, and what he's done for the business. Pat Patterson's a legend, and you can fight me all you want. I will stand on my hill and say Pat had nothing to do with any of that.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't know. I weren't there. I weren't in the locker room, obviously, but...
Was he... Tony Atlas saying he groped him? He might have been pissing
that's
about,
one of the people that's changed my mind on it. I didn't really have an opinion on Tony Atlas because it's just... Last time I saw him, he was a manager for Mark Henry in ECW. But... Exactly. That's his legacy. I absolutely hate him.
See,
I think he's so bitter.
Mind. Barring that comment about Pat, obviously we don't know what happened there. Could be pissing about whatever. But he, for me, was the only one that actually spoke the truth and was honest and wasn't afraid of not saying nice things about it. Everybody else had to say nice things, almost barring Bret.
I think he was a bit thingy, like...
He has no
like
reason
some of it
to be
was made up.
He has no reason to be better as well, because you remember it was Vince put the titles around him and Soulman Rocky Johnson.
But it just sounded like some of it was really made up.
I did say to Zoe though, Tony Atlas wouldn't have been in that interview if Soulman was still alive. He would have been the Soulman.
Oh, of course it would.
Yeah, 1,000,000,000%.
They needed one of Vince McMahon's first black African American champions on that documentary, and obviously Soulman's not around no more, because it would have been Soulman, and it would have been a totally different way of speaking about him, because obviously the way Dwayne spoke about him as well. But for me, Tony Atlas was the only one that just spoke. It might have been absolutely gibberish, but he's the only one that spoke what he thought.
I don't know. Some of it just to me it seemed like it was made up.
Then
but we don't know.
Then the big thing for me that came out of episode 2, probably the most important thing, was the lady ref stuff.
Rita Chatterton,
thank you. So, I'm sorry, but you put all this effort into this defamation lawsuit, absolutely going after everybody, and then you end up paying her off to make it all go away. There's no smoke without fire. And I think this was the start of the fire, for Vince. Things were moving. This is the starting point of everything that's happened from here on in.
That's the first hush money, but not calling it hush money.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, shut up now. I'm trying to get rid of this. I've done other shit, and if you carry on, these people can come forward. Here's my money.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
absolutely. 100%. But you can see from these first 2 episodes, there's something he's got that in him. Already see it.
There was something in the first few comments he made, and I'm gonna have to go back and watch the first few things. He said a comment, and it stuck. It shocked me when he said it, and I can't remember what it was now. But I should have typed it up, but I can't remember what it was. But he said a comment in one of the first few things he said, and I was like, "Are you fucking being serious?" I can't remember what it was now. But that set it up for me to say that, right, well, it's not a documentary that we all think it's going to be.
So I was upstairs, so I remember there was something about, kept making references obviously to sex and stuff, and like in pointless point in the conversations. Like, he'd bring up his sex drive and stuff like that, and it didn't make sense. But then now you know what you know, yourself going, that's on his mind all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what they say. He's like, oh, what you thinking about? What's your other brain thinking about right now? And he goes,
that was in the later
sex.
episodes. Yeah, sex.
Yeah, and that was in later episodes. There was
Episode
something he
5
started off with, and I was so shocked he said it.
I know one of the comments that he said early doors, and it stuck with me all the way through, was, I'm Vincent Kennedy McMahon. If you want to come for me, I'm going to come back, and I'm going to come back at full force because I do what I want.
I can't remember what it was.
But yeah, then episode 3, I think, is that where we got into...
That's where we got into how WCW started to become a competition and the screw job. So the third episode began with coverage of the original WWE screw job involving Wendy Richter. She was obviously the first one, before moving back to the steroid trial. And once the documentary finished covering that scandal, much time was devoted to the emergence of WCW as a major competitor. Ted Turner was portrayed as hell-bent on beating Vince at any cost. Bischoff was the main source of information about WCW, but Hogan and Vince also gave their thoughts. Stories were told about wrestlers who jumped ship to WCW, but they were only told by wrestlers who remained with WWE through the Monday Night Wars. At this point, Cody Rhodes' interview segments began to be included. A documentary about Vince covered the rise of the New World Order more than expected, but then we moved to the Montreal Screwjob to finish up the episode.
So this, for me, this episode, I know, Matt, you're going to agree with this because we spoke about this. This is when Bret Hart, I already have worries about him from Raw the other week.
The comment you mean is on the next episode.
Oh, yeah, I've got that here, but this is where the start of. This is where you see the bitter Bret Hart.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to make a comment on this now. I don't think he's better no more. I still don't change my view on his wrestling. But this documentary has opened my eyes to the shit that Bret's gone through. And I genuinely feel, because there's a comment in one of the later episodes, that Bret doesn't hold a grudge with WWE or Vince no more. I don't think he's better. I know the comment that you're going to go on about, and that was a comment that he thought of at the time. I don't think he's better. The shit that man went through with that company, and when WCW were winning over, he was the one that Vince has to stay on and help him.
Yeah. It was quite interesting because obviously I've seen a few documentaries that touch on the screw job, like the Shadows of the Heart, where all the footage comes from the backstage bit. But yeah, like for me, Bret, like I'm a little bit not on side, but Bret didn't do himself any favors, and they're saying this documentary for me.
I think Bret. I'm on the totally opposite side. I think Bret was able to finally. Well, obviously, we're getting. We spoke about it last week when I watched this episode. The whole Montreal Screwjob. We're getting two different types of stories about it because on one of the things I've watched that there's no one in the locker room and stuff like that, but to be told that it was an idea of somebody else and Triple H it's his idea. And then they're all backstage and they're all going, I had no idea, even though they'd already had the conversation. Give Vince his due. He went in there to let Bret get it out on him and to take his beating. Obviously, there's multiple stories come out. Like, I think someone said Bret just walked up and socked him. Taker said they locked up in like a wrestling lockup and he uppercutted him. And Bret said himself he uppercutted him. And one of the other documentaries I watched, there was apparently no one in the locker room barring Vince and Bret. So contradictions there. But the fact that Triple H made this, and this is the thing, Shawn and Triple H almost had an alternative motive to take over WWE from day one. Since that click moment, because they put that to Vince, and Vince like, yeah, as long as it doesn't get out, that's fine. It's almost like an alternate motive that they take over, and then obviously we know what Triple H goes on to become. it sort of makes me feel that Triple H had this plan almost in his little head that he's going to take over one day, and he's willing to shit on anybody to get there. For him to get that as a comment to someone that's in the wrestling ring with him, and might not have been friends, but let's screw him out of the title. Let's ring the bell, finish the match. Bit shitty.
It is, but at the same time, you don't leave a company with their title. That'd be like
But this is it. This
John
is where
Moxley.
the contradictions come in on that one, because, like I said, I've seen somewhere where Bret has said himself he wanted to win in Montreal and lose the next night.
See, I've never seen that. I've always seen the things that said that he wasn't willing to let the title go down.
So you're happy to relinquish it before he left, but he didn't want to give it to Sean, and it wasn't in Montreal.
Sean that he didn't want to give it to, but Vince was like, "Sean's my next guy."
Yeah,
which he was.
There's where contradiction with other documentaries come in again.
Like, but who are you to say you don't want to drop it against? Who are you to say that? It's not your company. It's not your championship. If that was if that was you, you came to me saying, "I'm not dropping it to Ted. Not a chance. I'm dropping it to Ted." I go, well, you are, because I'm the booker. I make the decision. It's my company, my championship, and you're saying you're not going to drop it. I'm going to screw you out that fucking championship. I don't care.
There's only one thing, right, that isn't mentioned, but if you logically think about it, the only thing I will give Bret Hart and why he would maybe add a say, is essentially Bret Hart screwed over his own dad to go to Vince. To go and be on Vince's show and give Vince all these years.
Yeah, but you think about it though, that was the time where Vince was going out, and that's like coming in episode 1 or 2, where he's going out to all the territories and everybody's screwing over everybody in the territories by joining Vince. Everybody that left their territories to be on Vince's show, if you're going down that line, they screwed over their own territories. Everybody did to be on TV, but why wouldn't you? Why would you not want to be on weekly TV?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you be? I mean, if someone come in and said to you, look, I want to put you on TV, but you can't do the YouTube channel no more. Laters, guys. I'm off to work for WWE on TV every week. Unfortunately, you're going to take that opportunity to better yourself. I don't see that as a screwing over of his dad. I think this is where this documentary once again lacks, is because we've seen so many things. This is where it's aimed at a neutral person again, because we've seen all these different things. That you have watched that Bret Hart one. I'm sure it's Beyond the Mat. That one I've seen. I'm gonna have to find it again.
And try and clip it for you. Shadows, the Bret Hart story.
Wrestling with
Beyond
Shadows,
the Mat one's the one I think I've seen where Bret says himself, all I wanted to do was win in Montreal, happy to drop it the next night or the next show. And obviously, he didn't mention this time around. Obviously, with that one Beyond the Mat was at the time. He just saying that they'd be on screen? But
so the one thing that does stand out to me, and it's something, there's a comment someone, I don't even know where it's from, but it's stuck in my head. The history is as written by the winners, like sticks in my head. Let's see, in this scenario is a lot of the stories, because Vince has won and Vince owns a lot of the rights to everything. Vince can kind of pick and choose what history gets spoken about.
Guys, barring Bret and Tony Atlas, look at the guys that were in. Oh, Meltzer and the other press guys. But look at the wrestlers, the people in the business that were picked to speak on there.
Yeah.
They were all Vince guys. And I'm talking Cena, Rock. They're all Vince's guys. Everybody was Vince's. Cody is a Vince guy.
Mm-hmm.
As much as it hurts me to say, Cody has openly said Vince flew to his house to get him to re-sign. Cody's a Vince guy, because that they're all Vince's guys. If you wanted to do a proper expose that didn't have, this is why that was one of the reasons that made me think that this documentary was never meant to make him look bad. Because if you wanted to do a full-on expose, where's JR?
JR declined to be in it.
Yeah, but this is it. He's declined to be in it. But whereas the likes of Chris Jericho, who's worked for the first guy that jumped across from WCW that made an impact, wasn't mentioned in it.
So I know RVD, Jim Ross, Jerry Lawler, Michael Cole.
Bryce Cole, not in it.
Who was the others? There was a few. There was others that all declined to be in it. Tommy Dreamer declined to be in it.
Because all these people they've got issues, and they will probably. Jerry Lawler.
Yeah.
Nobody probably knows stuff that he doesn't want to let out by accident.
Well, yeah, but yeah, I know what you mean.
He's probably afraid because he's probably been looked after by them and has been for a long time. He's afraid to say something. A slip of a tongue that then opens a wormhole for him.
Yeah.
Same with like JR probably doesn't want the hassle of saying something about, let's say, about the Owen Hart incident, and then the backlash because he can't be asked to deal with it all again. Yeah. These people they've had issues with him.
But then that's not Vince. And I'm not sticking up for him. That's not.
No, that's not Vince. That's them as well.
That's them saying I just can't be asked doing it, or I don't want to say anything.
That's them being clever. But the ones that are probably been put forward coming by Vince are all Vince's guys.
Yeah.
I Stone Cold. Stone Cold annoyed me. And I didn't think I'd ever get annoyed with Stone Cold, but we'll get to why Stone Cold annoyed me when we get to the episode. But that one there that was at episode 3.
That was episode 3 of the Screwjob, yeah. And the rise of WCW.
And I'm surprised how heavily they featured the whole NWO stuff.
Probably to do with
again, you can't not to understand how WWF progressed to where it is today.
Well, that's because the next episode moved on to the Attitude Era, so that'll be why.
Yeah.
So the one thing for me as well is how Vince. I've never noticed this before, and this did point it out to me. Is that Vince never acknowledged Eric? It was always him versus Ted.
As mentioned later on by Eric himself.
Yeah.
He said it was Ted Turner doing all this against him.
Yeah.
And never once realised.
Bishop said that in his book as well.
Yeah. He says it later on. He said it was always Ted Turner they went after, never me. But it was always me doing all the booking. Me doing everything on TV.
Ted was just a bank balance. Essentially, that's all he was.
Yeah, it's like Tony.
I like the footage of Ted Turner when he was watching when they were doing skits on him, and he was just laughing his head off, loving it.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. That just showed that he literally couldn't care what they were doing for him. He had no interest in that. He just wanted his business to be successful.
Yeah.
But then episode 4. We delve into the Attitude Era.
So I've got the bullet points here. The episode picked up the Montreal Screwjob with Vince transitioning to Mr McMahon, the character who ruled the company on TV. McMahon talked about loving Dr. Jerry Graham as a kid and how he tried to emulate some of his traits as a heel. The Attitude Era was highlighted during discussions about the Monday Night Wars. One thing worth noting is how jarring it is to hear The Undertaker speak using his real voice. Paul Heyman's interview segments began to be included as the topic of the ECW came up. Stone Cold was the connective tissue between ECW and WWE in this narrative. A lot of the time was spent talking about Stone Cold's impact on WWE and the fans. Mike Tyson's involvement was covered, and Stephanie McMahon said she didn't know the former boxer had already been arrested for rape at the time. Mr. McMahon claimed it bugs him that people think he's really like the Mr. McMahon character. Eric Bischoff also claimed McMahon basically copied his character in WCW. The Rock was featured more prominently in this episode as his early career was covered. Shawn expressed his regret for how women were portrayed in the Attitude Era, as clips of some of the WWE's less family-friendly segments were shown. Bret Hart spoke about how he felt Owen Hart was mistreated after the Hitman left WWE, but Vince claimed that was untrue. When Owen's death was discussed, McMahon didn't seem to have any regrets about letting the show continue. And the episode closed with the message saying Martha Hart, Owen's wife, settled her lawsuit against WWE in 2000. It's also stated that the company settled its own lawsuit against the manufacturer of Owen's harness in 2003.
So straight off the bat, the Vince McMahon character, I want to get into that bit straight away. Like, that isn't a character.
Yeah,
that's him.
So
living out his sick, perverse fantasies on TV.
Yeah.
So for me, right? So Vince McMahon was one person. Mr McMahon was a character. Then over the years, they're like that. They're one and the same.
I
think from day dot, mate, I think that was his sick, perverse mind going, how can I get away of literally making women my plaything and put it on TV for everybody else to see and get my kicks from it?
Look at the Ray Chatterton thing. Straight away, he did that, and then the steroid trial, everything he did with Bret, and then went, right, well, if I can bring a character into it to make it look like that's my character and I'm not actually doing anything, then it'll cover things up.
Yeah. At day one, dot one, that was him literally I wouldn't be surprised if he was after he got to do all that stuff, he's back in his little room doing stuff to fulfill his thrill.
Well, there's some storylines that coming up in the next episode that we'll talk about.
But yeah, the Mr McMahon thing, that was him literally fulfilling his perverse stuff on TV.
Yeah. Well, it went to like stuff like Trish, asking Trish to bark like a dog in her underwear.
It's such a mad segment.
What we know about that Janelle woman now.
Yeah.
It's a mad segment, that, when you look back on it.
Stuff with the Attitude Era, like I said, the less family-friendly content, so they're talking about the Royal Rumble. The Armageddon with Kat taking her top off.
So the thing with that is, right, and obviously, now this is the views of mine, and I was watching with Zoe now, as a very independent woman. You know, there's no messing around with her. She will tell you how it is. If she didn't like it, she'll tell you how it is. And even Zoe made a comment on the Attitude Era. That's how TV was then.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people forget that now when they look back at the Attitude Era going, oh, I can't believe they did that. No way, oh, that's so wrong. Get that off TV. That's how TV was. There was films like American Pie that were made around that era. South Park. There's so many media back then. That's how it was. It was edgier. Like music, we had the likes of Nirvana and stuff like that. The whole era of the 90s was an edgy era. The era of, that's when metal came into new metal came in, grunge, and that's how it was. You would watch bloody like a 6 p.m. program, and there'd be someone in a bathing suit that it was like what porn stars were now.
Look at that. Saved by the Bell, they had episodes where they were on the beach. And Kelly in a bikini.
Power Rangers, I'm sure it would have been an episode at some point in Power Rangers where Kimberly would have been in a bikini top or something.
Yes, she was. I mean, what?
But you get what I mean? This is that. And then you had kids' TV programs like Rocko's Modern World was a kids' TV program. Mm-hmm. Is anybody? I don't know if any of you ever know this, but you know what Rocko did for a job?
When he
worked on a sex line.
No,
I thought it was something like that.
If you look back now and you watch them when he's working, there's little notes saying about, like in the background, the really subtle notes saying like deeper voice, husky speak really slowly. He worked a sex line.
Is that an actual thing?
Yeah.
Mad.
You had the Simpsons doing what the Simpsons did. You had like say South Park. The whole South Park came off the back of that era. So they look in that era and think, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. They were doing what was trendy back then.
Yeah, they were just following suit. That's all it was.
Well, WCW did it as well. They had the whole Nitro girls, God's sake, and all they did was come out in nicks and nothing, dancing before the main event. But when you look at some of the stuff that he did do in that era, you're like, wow. Could you imagine if he tried to book Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch in a mud match in brown panties nowadays?
Get fucked.
Right, Shayna Baszler, look, you're going to go out now and fight Nikki Cross to be stripped down to your underwear. I reckon Shayna would break his nose.
Oh, 100%. 100%. The suit, it's mad. Like, the stuff that he got away with back in the day.
I do think you look at it now, and you talk about the Attitude Era then. I do think, and if this offends people, I'm sorry, but a lot of people are snowflakes nowadays.
Yeah.
And they take
100%,
anything
mate.
and they go, right, well, like, take, for example, I don't know, a Disney film, and they're talking about bringing someone in that's a different, I don't know, Snow White. They're bringing someone in for Snow White, say, like, I don't know, Keira Knightley, and they go, well, that needs to be this person because it's 2024.
Little Mermaid. Little Mermaid. Little
Little
Mermaid.
Mermaid's
Little
perfect,
Mermaid.
yeah. Do you need to bring this
So I'll give you
person in
another
because of that?
example. Obviously, this is more UK based. So obviously, anybody that watches outside UK, sorry. The greatest female comedian of all time was announced a couple of weeks back for the UK. And no offense meant to this at all, but the comedian that won it fits the rota for the snowflakes right now because she's in that demographic of having a disability and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, I do find her funny, but when you compare to other female comedians that we've had in the past, she's not even in the top 10. Have that. That's like you said, we're in a snowflake generation now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, things like that happen, and it happened. Right? If you don't want it to happen now, that's absolutely fine. But you can't drag that shit back up. I mean, these snowflake generation, mate, they've tried to ban Only Fools and Horses from TV.
And the people get offended from Friends. I get a grip. Honestly, I just get a grip. But
absolutely. So, do you know what? If you don't like it, don't watch it.
Yeah.
It's plain and simple. You don't like it, don't watch it. So, like now, we're slowly treading into that area, especially with AEW. We're slowly treading into that minefield again, where we're being a bit more edgy. 2 pay-per-views in a row. Daniel Bryan's had a bag put over his head.
Fucking baghead.
Baghead.
Swerve Strickland had a needle stuck through his cheek. And they were all straight on it. Unfortunately, it's right. What are we all meant to do? Go out with feathers and tickle each other?
What a match that would be, though.
I mean, imagine
Ivar
that
versus Otis.
Yeah, and a tickling match.
Yeah.
But it was something as well. Like just another like how the media and stuff is nowadays, and to the way it was. Benson Boone, the singer, performed at the VMAs or something in like what I can only describe as like a sparkly speedo.
Mm-hmm.
The whole world went mad. Can't believe he was allowed to perform like that. All he had on was a pair of speedos. Da 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 da. But yet, Nicki Minaj and Sam Smith and all them can go out and wear chaps and a thong and a bikini top. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Or she can make a song about wet ass pussy, and that is a #1 hit.
And if you had your bingo cards, John's saying wet ass pussy, you can tick that one off. That one's done.
Oh, it's one of the things. That's one of the things that really gets me because of how media is.
I know.
It's all right for her to say that, but for John Moxley to put a bag over Daniel Bryan's head, which if you watch Saturday nights, Bryan's actually got his thumb in and he's got plenty of hair covered out.
Yeah,
by the way, I was meant to point out, but I thought I wouldn't ruin the illusion for people. Already agreed with, pre-planned, already worked. But no, that's not allowed. But no, it's all right for Sam Smith to go out in stockings and knee-high boots and in a kid-friendly concert.
Mm-hmm.
So, actually, no, I'll not say what I'm about to say.
Careful.
You mentioned something about Stone Cold, and it pissed you off.
Oh, so the Stone Cold thing comes in when it talks about
ECW.
No, it's the concussion thing.
All right, that's like.
So that's where it comes in episode 5. That's why the big thing I think this is the comment you want to make on.
So there's 2 points that I brought out for this episode that stood out is, and it all both relates to Owen Hart, and it's a massive tragic thing. Is Vince let a pay-per-view go on with Owen Hart's blood still sat at ringside? I didn't realise. I've not watched that pay-per-view because I don't want to see it.
I've watched it back, mate.
I watched the pay-per-view back.
And and when it showed footage of the blood on there, that's insane.
Let me point one thing on that, mate. And I don't mean to interrupt you, but it's in my mind, and you know how I work. If I don't get it out, it space. Right. Undertaker in that documentary, I can't remember what episode, says how he tried his best to keep his character real to people. No matter in the situation, he tried to keep his character real. Nothing bothered him. He didn't talk. He did the job. You watch that pay-per-view back, they actually clipped it for about 10 seconds. Taker breaks his character because he's looking at the ring, looking at the blood, and he is visually disturbed about being in the ring with Owen's blood.
Yep.
It's crazy.
And the comment he made about that as well is, if it was me or my son, the pay-per-view would have still went on. Come back to his son in a bit. But they should have been stopped. They should have announced it on TV as well that he was dead. Should have just let him go off, and we'll bring you updates. No updates yet. No updates. Let his family find out first. Bret was on a fucking plane.
Yeah, exactly. It was said that something, so you've just felt off. Is say that something bad had happened.
Yeah. You wanted to make another point, Ted?
And the other point was Bret's comment.
That's in the next one. Is this in this one?
This is in this one.
Yeah, he's a twat. I'm sorry, he's a twat. It's not all about Bret Hart. I'm sorry, but it's not.
The comment? What comment?
So he turns around and says, what did he say, Ted?
So that Bret thought that Vince had killed
Owen. Killed Owen on purpose because of him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Bret. It's not all about you. I don't think Vince McMahon went, right, okay, let's put Owen up there, let's snap it, and then let's do it.
And obviously, there's so that comment, but then there's a comment he made later on when he's phoned them about, and he apologised to Vince. He said he apologised to Vince, and he forgave Vince for everything he did to him as well. Now, I put myself in that shoes, right? I've got an older brother, you've got a brother, Matt, you've got your sister, right? Take away the wrestling side of things, right? You and us and our siblings work somewhere. Now, I've worked with one of my siblings, okay?
One of mine. Well, three of mine.
And I have personally felt the brunt in a workplace of something my siblings done.
Oh no,
and it's been paid out on me. So I heard that comment, and I sort of like, I can see where he's coming from. Has he? Because it wasn't just the murder thing. Owen was treated afterwards.
Well, that's not what he said, though. He didn't say
I know it's not.
He said that he killed him because of him.
Yeah. But I'll be honest, if that was me and someone happened to one of my siblings in a company that I'd left in a bad way, I'd think the same things. Paranoia is a wonderful thing. And I would have thought the same thing. The way he was treated and the way he went out, and the way Vince has done work, we're thinking of the things that Vince has done prior. It's paranoia would make you think that way.
Right.
Absolutely.
But since then, if Vince are all pally now, and he's still saying, "Oh, I still think Vince," because that's what he said. I still think Vince killed Owen Hart because of me.
But that's it. But he said it. He said it. But then he said he forgave him when he spoke to him about that. But I think Bret was just being honest about how he felt at that situation.
It's bollocks, mate. I'm sorry. It's bollocks. I'm sorry. It's not all about Bret Hart. As much as he
it's not all about Bret, but that's how he felt.
It's not all about Bret Hart. Yes, Owen died. It was tragic. We know it was, and the event should have been cancelled. We know. But just because that happened doesn't mean that Vince did it because of you. You're not the be-all and end-all of wrestling, Bret. I'm sorry.
I think and people overthinking the comment on that. I don't
think I am. He killed him because of me. How am I overthinking that comment?
That was his feeling.
But
that was his feeling.
Like, no one can change my mind on this.
So you're telling me, so if you had a massive fallout, you and your brother worked together somewhere, you had a massive fallout, and something happened to your pure accident happened to your brother. You had a massive fallout with the management, and something happened to your brother in work. Purely accident, 100% accident. You're not going to think that thought?
No.
Fucking I would.
Why would I think a company has killed my brother because I've left a cog in the machine?
If you're a crucial part of a company like he was.
So if I die, because where we work, and Luke's working for something else now, if I ask him now, would you think that they killed me because of you? He'd say no.
If you're a crucial part of that workplace and something happened, you left under a bad cloud.
I don't agree, man. I don't agree.
honest to God, if that was me and my
So-
brother and I left under a bad cloud as he did, punching the boss and everything, fucking jumped to the company and the company was beating him at this point, and something happened to my brother live on TV.
It's one thing, absolutely killing his character and letting him rot in lower card, or not even getting on TV, not even paying him, or not paying for hotels or whatever. But to say that he killed him because of him, nah.
Say, mate, paranoia is a wonderful thing.
No.
I would do the same. I would think the same thing, 100%.
Not having it.
100%. If I was working WWF, I was a top guy. My brother was working below us in mid card, whatever. Something I left under that storm, or the way he did, and then something happened to my brother. 100% think the same thing.
Go on, Ted.
To lean in with Matt, right? So you're saying that he left under a dark cloud. Vince effectively kicked him out. He wanted him gone. It didn't really matter to Vince. In all honesty.
Yeah, but Vince wanted him gone because Vince signed him to a stupid, ridiculous 25-year deal.
Yeah.
That he couldn't afford no more. He openly said that on the thing. He couldn't afford it no more. And he hatched the plan of him leaving because he knew he'd make more money over in WCW and he'd save Vince money.
Yeah. So, exactly. So Vince wanted him out. Vince got rid of him, got what he wanted. So for Vince, it fixed the problem.
And to go along with Ted, Bret going to WCW didn't change anything. It didn't change the way the company was going or the way the results were going. So why would it Vince? What was it? The year after? Was it 98? It happened. Why would Vince a year later go? Oh, do you know what? Fucking can't stand that Bret Hart. Let's kill his brother.
But I say it was a paranoia thought. It wasn't.
I think. Sorry to cut you off, Jim. I think it was a stupid comment that he said that in the heat of a moment where he's discussing the past.
Yeah.
The one thing I may give him, and Matt, I know I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate here, is he's said this in a moment, and the documentary played it like that, as I say, to cause that reaction. Because me and you spoke about the exact same thing. As soon as we both watched the episode, it was like that fucking comment from Bret, and that sticks out as a integral moment in the documentary.
I mean,
literally the only two things I've got from this episode as a whole is those 2 points.
So
that's it.
If he would have worded it differently, and if he would have gone, back then, I thought he killed Bret, but he didn't say that. He said, I still think. He still thinks. If he would have worded it and gone, back then, if he would have worded it and said, back then I really thought, Vince did kill him for Bret, but
the way he worded it was, I thought Vince killed him because of me. But that's it. We don't hear the hindsight of what the interviewer said to get that out of him.
I don't agree, but that's just me. That's my opinion. That's just me. Mike Tyson. I didn't know he'd done
Once again, it's business sense of it and stuff like that. He shouldn't have been on TV and especially around a locker room.
I've some really good TV shows about Mike and his story. I say that portray what Mike was like. Vince had an opportunity to get one of it's like OJ Simpson when everything happened with OJ. Vince parodied it on WrestleMania. They had the car chase with the white Bronco. So Vince had an opportunity to take one of the most talked about things in America at that point and put it on TV, and he draws eyes to your product. Like the big thing for Vince is publicity, negative or positive. They talk about my company.
The one thing I got from Vince, or one of the many things I got from Vince, was business first. No matter who, what, when, it's business first. Money, it's him and his business and making money for himself and making him successful. He didn't give a fuck about anybody. That includes his own children, to a degree. He didn't care about what he would. He didn't care because he wanted his company to be successful. I mean, straight from the off start, we touched on the territories earlier on. He broke his dad's unspoken promise with the rest of the territories to never enter each other's territories. Straight away,
Vince waited until his dad were out the door and then just fucked that off straight away. The guy's ruthless. The guy, he's like simple. He's a ruthless guy. That's like John said earlier. He's a predator.
But with Tyson, business is business.
Business man.
Tyson's like Punk now. It made sense.
Mm-hmm.
Put eyes on the product.
Money.
Money. It's all about money. How does he draw someone in to watch WrestleMania? All right, we've got the matches. I know. Let's put Iron Mike in there. Like he put Mr. T in WrestleMania #1.
Yep.
And 2. And Ali. And like over the years that he's done. Let's put people that are popular on TV. And it's still to this day we have irrelevant, like recently. I don't think it's irrelevant, and I know you guys don't, but Sexy Red been on main roster and NXT. I haven't fucking Scooby-Doo who she is.
I didn't until she came on NXT, but she's apparently popular.
Yeah, but this is it. It's they work on the media, don't they? And that's what they rely on, and people putting eyes on them.
Yeah, that's it. Well, that was episode 4. Episode 5 talks about his family. Goes into Linda, Shane, and Vince, and Steph. So the storyline and real relationship between Triple H and Steph were covered. Said it was weird for her dad to ask her to do some of the things she did on screen. Shane was apparently against the idea of Stephanie and Triple H dating, but Vince was the one playing matchmaker. Vince booked himself against Stephanie in a street fight 6 days before her real wedding.
Because she wouldn't televise it.
Triple H cheated on China was never mentioned.
No.
Linda spoke a little about marrying Vince and how uncomfortable she was performing on TV. Vince laughed when talking about kissing Trish in front of his wife in a wheelchair. Linda was actually pitching ideas to make the story better. So Linda sounded like she liked that idea. A lot of times I spent on the McMahon family feud. All 4 members of the family spoke about it in a mostly positive light. Vince claimed he didn't remember much about Sable's lawsuit against WWE for sexual harassment. When his affair storyline with Sable was brought up, there was an awkward moment when it looked like he wasn't sure if they were talking about a real affair or a storyline. WWE going public on the New York Stock Exchange was briefly mentioned before the downfall of WCW was examined. It was surprising how little time was spent covering Vince's purchase of WCW. The launch of the XFL was also covered. It was weird hearing Bob Costas reportedly use the F word on TV. Vince was surprisingly not bitter about the World Wildlife Fund winning the rights to the WWF trademark. His business comes first mindset was highlighted by discussions about several people who returned to WWE after having issues with him. The debut and rise of John Cena during the Ruthless Aggression era was featured. Stephanie, responsible for Cena's rapping on TV, was mentioned. Stephanie refused to discuss the proposed incest storyline with Vince, and Vince chuckled about it. It's ironic that Vince declined the offer to buy UFC in the 90s, only for UFC's parent company to end up buying WWE a few decades later. And Shane leaving WWE was the final topic covered before a preview of the final episode indicated that it would feature Grant's lawsuit. So a lot to take in that episode. We'll start off with the Steph, Triple H getting together. Nothing about China mentioned.
No.
History.
Even though there was footage in one of the early episodes with them holding hands. I think it was Owen's funeral, maybe.
Yeah,
him in China. This is where it plays back to. It almost feels like this was pre-hatched planned many, many years ago for Hunter to be brought in some sort, for him to push Hunter to Steph. It's like it was almost like, thanks for helping me sort out Sean. What I'll do, I'll give you my daughter in a few years' time. Sort of feel for me. Obviously, probably not played out. The way Steph made it out is like because the way they put it together.
They put the storyline together and they just became close together.
Yeah, but the fact that the way it's been done and stuff, and now we know stuff that Triple H has done down the line for him, and it just a bit dodgy in it. But it seems like Vince McMahon has a plan all the time. The incest stuff, that once again, wanted to fulfill one of his sick fantasies on TV.
Yeah.
Sick.
And they wanted to put the wedding. Well, Vince wanted to put it on pay-per-view, and they were all like, "No," and then made a wrestler street fight, no mercy.
I didn't go easy on her either.
He
Going
didn't.
from the footage.
And Linda threatened Vince with divorce if she ended up with a black eye.
He wouldn't have given a fuck. He would have took it. Because that would have let him be able to do what he wants then with all the other women he had on
I
the go.
doubt it, because she was the what? She knew some shit, and he had to keep it quiet. She knew half.
So
for
me,
she's on the payroll. She knows.
Yeah,
too
that's what I
much
mean.
now.
So why would he say, "Okay, bye," when she could have easily turned around and gone, "Well, no, this is what's happening."
Yeah.
So for me, Linda, one of the big things for me is that Linda is hardly on this. She's bits and bobs in this documentary, little bits. She didn't want anything to do with this fucking documentary. She did little bits of interviews here and there, as I say, but with everything though, because she's trying to get herself back in with everything with Trump, is been on his council. She wants nothing to do with this sort of document.
When this was filmed, you gotta remember this was filmed 2021.
Yeah.
So this is like when he was on his way out and being indicted and all that sort of stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
I feel she wasn't in it as much. Just back to that matter of worry of her saying something.
Yeah.
Or she was brought in and they were told you're only allowed to cover this, this, and this, well, and then that's it.
Yeah. 100%.
Well, to be fair, she was in it. Sorry, mate, go on.
No, go on.
I was just going to say, she was a proper permanent character on TV in 2000.
Yeah.
2001. And then you didn't see her again. You saw her in 2002 for the draft, when the draft began. And then that was it then, till 2003, when you had the whole storyline with Bischoff trying to force himself on her kind of thing. And then with the Stephanie McMahon and Vince thing. But then that was it. We've not seen her. She took a stunner in 2007 when Raw moved back to USA. But I think that was it then. I've not seen her since. So she has been off TV for so long, hasn't she?
If you think of all the stuff that he's done, all the stuff that he's done or been accused to be done, she knows more than. And in thinking of Linda McMahon now, does that make her just as bad as him?
Damn right it does. Or
not worse? Because she's not willing to come forward to support these women.
I've always been the one to say Linda's the normal one. Linda's the one. But before I knew proper about wrestling,
yeah,
I was like, Linda's the normal one. Linda's the one that's got her head screwed on. Vince is mental. Shane just wants to be like his dad, and Steph is with Triple H kind of thing. Like, Linda's the normal one. And then when you know about wrestling and when you look into it, especially from this, she's just as bad as he is.
This episode made me realise who the normal one is.
Yeah. And it's 100%. Not the person. It's not that. Well, both of them, two people actually for me. Stephanie and Shane are the two.
No, I think something not right with Stephanie for me. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. Something this whole thing that didn't sit well with me with Stephanie. I feel Stephanie knows a lot more than she let on, and that big clues when he resigned. She took over, and then when he came back, she was like, "Well, fuck this, I'm out because I know this is going to go under soon."
I mean that bit, yeah, but I mean out of them all, Shane's the normal one. But I mean, Steph for me didn't do any self harm. She didn't do any self. She put her side to the story.
Yeah, as I said, there's something just not sitting right. But just want to go into Shane because we mentioned him now. I feel sorry for Shane. That's the one thing I've come out of this entire documentary going. I feel so sorry for Shane. All Shane wanted.
Like any of us. It's like any of us. Like you wanted your dad's sort of acceptance. Like,
yeah.
You want to be acknowledged.
And he was willing to put his body on the line for his dad to get his dad to go, "Good job, son." And
that's what he said. He said he'd go to all these lengths just to get a fucking pat on the back, man. Like,
yeah, that's all he wanted. And somebody, I can't remember who said the comment about. Obviously, Vince had that with his dad, and that's probably why he treated Shane the way it was. But then if somebody said the comment, I can't remember who it was. It could have been Zoe, actually. Said, when you grow up with a dad like that, you have kids of your own, you're trying to give them kids what you didn't have. Mm-hmm. Well, Vince didn't. Vince just carried on doing what his dad did to him. But then you look at Shane and his boys and what he does. And his social media, he's always at all their events. He's everywhere. He brought him out at WrestleMania. Shane's done what a dad would do. Well, my dad didn't do this for me. I'm going to show you all the love and attention that I've got, and I can at every opportunity.
Yeah.
And it was sad because at those points where that was a little boy saying, I just want my dad to tell me he loves me.
I still don't want him in AEW though.
I still don't want him in AEW.
Get him in AEW.
No, I think best for Shane is to stay away from the wrestling business. And I think Shane should. I don't think his relationship with the wrestling business is not a healthy relationship because of the what it's always going to come back to. Oh, my dad would have done this. My dad's done that, and that. I think Shane should step away from the wrestling business. Full stop. Go into other stuff like UFC. Go into BAM or whatever. If you want to get to the contact sport, because he's does mixed martial arts, doesn't he? Cage fighting himself. Get into that. Stay away from the wrestling business. I think it'd be healthier for Shane to start fresh at something different.
A couple of interesting things. You mentioned Tony Atlas before. Tony Atlas said something during this. So Vince used Sable's real life sexual harassment lawsuit to inspire storylines, which led to a comment from Tony Atlas that I've noted. He put, "We have been looked upon in today's society as some of the worst human beings walking the face of the earth. I mean, we abused the hell out of women. All of us did. That was like a toy for us." They were his words. As saying that generally echoed over the industry for years.
Until like 2016.
Yeah.
You think about it, historically how the wrestling business treated women till recent eras. They were what's the word I'm looking?
Playthings in a way.
Yeah, they were like toys that like making them making them, but some of them would have agreed, but
making
brown panty match. Like, how many of them? I wonder. I'd love to know how many of them were contractually obliged to pose nude for Playboy.
So the one thing I noticed, right? There's a few people that weren't interviewed as part of this. Tori Wilson, Stacy Keibler. Who else is there? China's not mentioned at all. You've then got other people like Maria Kanellis. No, like people that.
But they touched on Ashley.
She's one. She's one he paid off. 1 fucking billion%. And then when she turned him down, tried rejecting the money, that's when he fucking made her life hell.
Well, look at Sable, right? So Sable filed for lawsuit against sexual harassment against Vince. That was paid off because in 2003 she came back. And Stephanie didn't know anything about obviously this is what she said. She didn't know about the lawsuit. She didn't have a clue. And when Sable got brought back on TV and she got told about the lawsuit, they used it in the storyline. So there was Sable there, and then obviously we had Rita Chatterton years before, Wendy Richter got screwed. And then you look for, obviously you had the cat taking her top off on pay-per-view and stuff, and then you had the brown panty matches. But even going forward, Mickey James being took the piss out of because of her weight. The lingerie pillow fight matches they had at WrestleMania. Like you said, Tori Wilson, Stacy Keibler, and then going further, like Christy Hemme.
Yeah.
And then you had Vince's Angels. Victoria was a part of Vince's Angels. Kelly, obviously doing the Extreme Expose with Layla and Brooke Adams in the new ECW. Like, all through, you can see all the way through that no matter what happened, he had to have women in underwear all the way up till the new NXT. when women's wrestling started changing for the better. So, like, then you had obviously the people like Eve Torres, Beth Phoenix. I mean, even Beth Phoenix.
Candice Michelle.
Candice Michelle did brown panty matches, but what I'm saying is you had certain women wrestlers that didn't do that. Like Natalia. I don't think I ever remember seeing Natalia in a match like that, or Beth Phoenix, to be fair. Even Mickie James, I don't think I saw. So it got to a certain point where he couldn't do it anymore, and I think that's when he started.
I think with Mickie James, it was the early doors. Mickie James, what he did with that, because obviously there was the whole lesbian stalker storyline with Trish. Early doors.
That was another one of his
kiss
fantasies.
on TV and stuff like that, and it once again, it just reiterated in that episode that he was fulfilling his sick perverse fantasies on TV.
Yeah.
I can't have these women in my office in their underwear doing what I want them to do. So what I'll do, I'll write it on TV.
Mm-hmm.
It's just his power man. Obviously, what else was in that one? Quick run through.
XFL was covered. Vince trying to launch his own footballing company
instead of taking UFC.
Which didn't work. Which instead of taking UFC in the 90s, he started XFL in 2001. Didn't work. And it's recently been brought back with The Rock owning it, but I don't know what's going on with that.
It's flopped again.
It's flopped again. It's not coming back.
WWE going public and the New York Stock Exchange was briefly mentioned before the downfall of WCW. So obviously they talked about the invasion storyline, how there was no competition between for WWE to go anywhere, and then they tried to make competition with the draft. Cena debuting, and talked about how Steph heard Cena rap on the bus, and said we want you to do that on TV because he was going to be released before that because he just wasn't going anywhere.
Other than that little bit, I think the whole thing of the Cena debuting and all that Cena stuff, it almost felt like a shoehorn to bring Cena on the interview side. Yeah. It has no relevance to anything else in that other than I seen him rap at the back of the bus, so I made the rapper.
I think they found it, by the way, doing it with Steph, with the rapping.
Yeah.
I think that's how they've done it and gone, right, well, Steph heard it, and she's literally created the Dr. Thugonomics with John Cena, and that's how they fit John Cena into it. I agree. And then the topic of Shane leaving was covered before talking about the lawsuit, which is coming in the last episode.
Fucking blame Shane for going. I really don't.
No, I don't either. So then last episode, clips on the WrestleMania 23 with Donald Trump opened up the last episode. The story of Vince's limo exploding was halted by the real-life tragedy involving Benoit and his family. Vince, Cena, and former writer Brian Gewirtz, Hart, Austin, and others shared their thoughts. Chris Nowinski, this surprised me. Chris Nowinski said he was sure Chris Benoit had chronic traumatic encephalopathy.
He said it on the Dark Side of the Ring documentary.
I never watched it.
CTE.
Austin said he doesn't believe in CTE. The Undertaker said he was mad at chair shots to the head were taken away, but understood why it happened. Reporter Phil Mushnick, a noted WWE critic, spoke about the quality of life changes he's seen for wrestlers in recent years. The Undertaker spoke about how he didn't know his streak would end at WrestleMania 30 until the day of the event. He said he still has no memory of the match after suffering a concussion. A few minutes into it, Vince tried to brush it off as the Undertaker was too traumatized to remember. There wasn't a single reference to the Yes Movement. The shift to PG programming and Women's Revolution was only covered for a few moments before the story moved on to Shane's return to WWE after several years away for a match against The Undertaker at WrestleMania 32. The Undertaker said he would take a bullet for Vince. We need to remember that was filmed before a lot of this news broke. When Vince was asked if he would ever retire, he said no. Hogan, Michaels, Booker T, and John Cena said they couldn't see it happening either. This next segment immediately covered his retirement in 2022 and his return in 23. Bruce Pritchard was interviewed for the final episode, and after seeing a few completed episodes beforehand, he said it was designed to make Vince look bad. 2 days after the interview was filmed, the details of Grant's lawsuit became public. The documentary ended with people discussing Vince's legacy, but the majority of the comments were filed in 2021 and 2022, so a lot of these people may have different answers now. And the final episode ended with a message saying Vince is currently under investigation for allegations of sexual misconduct and trafficking. Brock Lesnar was not commented on this involvement, and Grant's lawsuit is on hold while the federal investigation is ongoing.
So we'll start at the top. Obviously, this opened up with the whole Benoit situation. Not going into it. If you want to know, if you're not sure what we're on about, you can watch the documentary or you can do your own Google search. We're not going to go into too much detail of what Benoit did. I'm not going into any detail of what Benoit did at all, actually.
Yeah.
But the whole CTE, they call it the concussion stuff. This is where Stone Cold really annoyed me. Basically, brushing it off like it doesn't exist.
He's seen it on multiple counts.
Yeah, and he talked about his own injury and stuff when Goldberg, Owen dropped him on his neck.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But he was like, CTE doesn't exist. But we see it, and we've seen it in all other sports across the world. And this guy, that guy, said that he's been fought left, right, and centre about it. The thing,
I mean, sorry, go on.
It's his opinion, and obviously the Americans and where they're from and stuff like that, they have the opinions of all different things, and that's it. I respect his opinion, but the fact that he's lost friends and friends' careers have come to an end because of concussion issues, and he's like, I don't believe in it. It just upset me that someone of his profile
and his meaning to the business as well.
Yeah, it's like, I don't believe in it.
It's like football. It's like legends of NFL saying they don't believe in it. Where if you look at like the brains from NFL players, like that's why they've had to change complete rules in the games to stop this from happening.
All sports, mate, have been changing. Like if you look at Ali, concussion. A lot of you know concussion is basically something happens to your brain, hits your skull, and you can get a double concussion. If you're like a whiplash, if you're in a car accident, your brain hits the front of your skull, you got concussion. If you don't whip back and it's back, you've got a double concussion. So boxers get it quite often from punches. Look at how Ali ended his life.
Yeah.
Because of the punches. It's punch drunk. That's what they call it in boxing. It's punch drunk. It's never a concussion issue. It's punch drunk. Sport has a history of this, all sports, and I'm glad that it is taking effect. And it is being looked into and treated. I think Vince moved on it because he had to, because of the whole scandal falling around Benoit.
He had to get ahead of it.
But then there's an interview in that one. And the interviewer said to him, and this is the one where he flicks his papers off him and everything. He's like, you don't care about your wrestlers and their lives and stuff. And I think that might be the same guy that said about we move on from them.
No.
Yes, it was.
And I thought that was someone different. The guy that said that was just that was actual primetime TV.
Yeah. Honestly,
I think
it was after learning TV, what he said about wrestlers, the wrestlers, and how business is business. I genuinely don't think he cared about wrestlers.
I think he cared about some, and it's the yes.
Some. He's yes men, yeah. But yeah, I think if you're not them elite, look how quick he was to release people. And then not stand by people. I think he doesn't care about it. I think it's different business now. I think Triple H and Shawn care about their wrestlers, and Nick Khan and TKO and whatever. They're going to care about them because they look at the things that they're doing to support them all. But he doesn't. They were circus acts to him.
Yeah.
One gets injured, one gets written off TV. I just find somebody else to replace you.
Yeah.
And did it. The CTE stuff. I'm glad it's being changed.
With that, and with what you said about Austin, some people are going to be like that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and I'm only using this example because it's just recent, COVID.
Yeah.
I know what COVID can do to people because I've seen it in my own family. However, some people are hell bent, as no matter how many times they've seen it on people or their own family will go, COVID's not real. It's not real. It's made up by the
I have a family member that is that way. even though, and as well, it's nothing, I'm not hiding anything or breaking news here. This podcast, if you've been with us since day one, you know it very well. I am somebody that had life-changing effects because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So it is very real. But my family member, and I'm not naming them, man-made, all made propaganda.
That's what I mean. So he's no matter how many times he sees it, he's set in his own ways. He's got to be like, do you know what I mean? It's not something that I'm going to change my opinion on Austin. It is what it is.
No, I'm not going to change my opinion on Austin. That's it. It was his point of view, and it's one of them ones. It's a debate. We go back 5 minutes ago. We were debating the Bret's comment.
COVID happened because of 5G. Like, you ain't going to fucking change people, are you?
Like, you know we've done it in this video. You've got your opinion what Bret said. I've got my opinion on what Bret said. Everybody's going to have their own opinion. You're not going to like it sometimes. You're not going to agree with it sometimes. I think what hit a nerve, and Ted said it there, someone of his profile in the company have that opinion and air it on a documentary. It's maybe one of them things he didn't think would make the cut, but did because of who he is. Because you didn't get much of Stone Cold on that interview, and that's the big takeaway from everything Stone Cold covered. That was a big takeaway. He doesn't believe in that CTE. I think that's what hit me. It touched the nerve of me a little bit more than anything. I'm not changing my opinion on Stone Cold. I still fucking love Stone Cold. Best thing to happen in the wrestling business. Absolutely. But yeah, that comment, it just hit a nerve. I think as well because of how much I was a fan of Benoit and the whole thing of it. I think that's like, once again, not justifying what he did, but that had a big part of it. Big part of them doing it.
I love Benoit for what he's doing. Look, then Chris Nowinski, it's not said there. Chris Nowinski went to go and sue WWE, and the documentary, Vince rang him up and said, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he obviously said, "I'm suing you because of this." And he went, "Well, teach me about it. I want to know about it." That's because he
was a wrestler.
No. That's what Vince literally rang him up and said. Well, that's what he said. Obviously, they both said in the documentary. Chris said that Vince rang him and asked him why he was suing him, so he said why. And then Vince wanted educating on it and told him everything, what was going on and why this was happening. So then that's when it all changed and the protocols came in, chair shots and stuff.
The one with Taker shocked me with Vince and his comments. So obviously he now told Taker
he was like that though. It's like his dad.
No, not what Taker said about him. What Vince said about Taker on the Mania.
Oh, the Mania thing. Yeah, that's absolutely that.
So Taker found out on the day that it was Luke not going to beat Brock and put him over, and then Vince tried to play off. So Taker then says that he got a concussion that match and doesn't remember a single thing from that match, early doors. But then Vince tries to style it off and be like, "No, I was just shocked that I changed the plans last minute." Vince, you're literally your guy. That is the 100% the Vince guy.
Yeah.
Is openly saying, "I got a concussion. I can't remember shit." Nah, you were just surprised.
Yeah. You just traumatized. What?
Yeah, you were just surprised that you were losing your own beat. Bollocks.
It surprised me that. Not a single reference to the Yes Movement. I don't understand why there would be.
No. It's irrelevant to the company as such.
Shift to PG programming and women's revolution. Oh, sorry, Ted. Was you going to say something then?
No, I was echoing the sentiment. It's he didn't have anything to do with this. Don't get me wrong, the Yes Movement were a big thing at that time, but in relation to Vince McMahon, it didn't mean shit.
Yeah.
If we're doing a documentary about Bryan Danielson, then yes. But we're not. We're talking about Vince McMahon.
Yeah, if it had something to do with personal life for Vince, then I don't understand why, but it didn't. It was storyline, Triple H and Steph and Vince. And that was the reason why. Shift to PG programming, Women's Revolution was only covered for a few moments before they went on to Shane. We'll leave Shane for a minute because I want to finish with Shane. Oh, well, come to end towards with Shane. Obviously, the stuff retirement, everyone's saying he won't retire, and then literally.
There was a key thing, and I want to say it was Taker that said it.
Probably.
That Vince will, or Hogan. Vince will only retire if there was like a nuclear explosion.
Yeah, and Hogan said it.
Yeah.
I think it was the last one that was said before it then went black and it dropped in about the lawsuits.
Yeah.
The nuclear explosion happened.
Yeah, exactly. Touch on Shane first before we move on to the final bit and our altogether thoughts. Shane returning. When they replayed that segment on Raw, I got goosebumps when he came out.
Same.
And then got a bit emotional when you could see he was on the verge of crying because the fans were absolutely chuffed to see him. And the fans have always been behind Shane. No matter what he was doing, whether he was with Big Show, whether he was with his dad in the stupid god shit in 2006. He was always the fans' favourite out of them all. Shane.
I think as a fan, you can appreciate Shane put his body on the line for us
so many times.
So many times.
The guy's like rich, legit rich. It's not like his storyline rich.
He's an heir to billions, mate. He's an heir to billions. He didn't need to wrestle. He could have sat backstage eating fucking pizza all day and not have to worry about going to work.
He didn't need
to get
Kendo stick by Steve Blackman to fall off the Titantron.
No, but he felt with Shane. He felt he needed to do this to win the approval because he wants to be the heir of WWE. At that time, he wanted to take over, so he felt he had to do everything he could, like his dad did, to take over. I don't think if it didn't get sold or anything, and let's say Vince died and it was handed, I think it was Steph's.
Yeah,
and that was 100% from day one. It was Steph's.
100%.
Because the way he treated Steph, and you can see it when their interactions backstage and how she speaks about her daddy and how Shane speaks about his dad are way, way different.
Yeah. I agree.
Steph was always the
favourite.
The favourite child.
Yeah. All day. Yeah.
And once again, I feel so sorry for him. Feel so sorry. Like he's doing the one thing as boys do. You want dad's seal of approval that you're doing good. And Vince is like, treat him like a worker, not his son.
Yeah, he did.
Well, it just brings it, if we could circle back round. Oh, if that would happen to my son, that show would have gone on. That said everything for me. Like, right, cool, get what you are now. You're just a piece of shit.
I would have loved for the interview to twist that comment back on him though and go, but what if it was Stephanie?
Yeah, I would have liked that.
Yeah.
Because the better would be a totally different matter if his daughter fell from the rafters and smashed her head open.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Pritchard saying that
fucking stooge,
biggest Vince McMahon stooge in the entire thing. He's probably sitting somewhere now going, nah, Vince never did all that with her. No. He never did nothing.
There is only one person, and he went in this documentary, that's more of a stooge than his, and that's John Laurinaitis. Because he's equally in this.
I don't think John Laurinaitis would be a stooge. No, I think if you give John Laurinaitis a stage, he'll sing like a fucking songbird.
I do too. He'll clear his name. I'll try to.
I think that's why he's been kept out of the light. Like, no one has seen John Laurinaitis in the bright light of day since this all broke.
Anyone.
Vince has got him in his...
The only reason Brock gets brought up is he going to be at WrestleMania?
I was surprised that Brock's name was name dropped by that.
Yeah, same. I was like, ooh.
His name has never been... We sort of worked it all out as wrestling fans, who it was, time, in the situation. No, his name was never dropped until she went Brock Lesnar. Because all we said there going...
I'm sure, did it not come out later on that it was Brock?
No,
so it's a UFC champion.
No, I know that, but then later on, I swear I read something it was Brock.
I think because it might have been brought up because it was easy to put two and two together and get it. But that was the first official...
Oh, no, I know what it was. It was the text messages. Vince said on it, Brock. The text messages, on one of the text messages, it says, I'll let Brock have his way with you.
Yeah, well, Brock likes what he sees.
Text message, that's what it was. It was a text message.
Yeah. But yeah, that was the first time that Brock was officially named as that superstar on that documentary.
Also, those text messages made me feel sick.
Grim. He's a grim bastard. Final thoughts then.
Perfect. Well, we've not mentioned one person that's been all over this, and it's not been brought up in Bleacher Report, maybe because he probably worked for them at some point. Dave Meltzer has not been brought up once by us. I think he's a twat. I get he's got grudges against. He's doing what he's probably been paid to do, but like
Dave Meltzer, there's clips and pictures of Dave Meltzer in that where he's mixing with the WWE guys, WWF
that's what
guys.
I mean.
There is. I think Dave. What people forget, and obviously I am not condoning that or praising Dave Meltzer because I think he's a melt right now, and he's absolutely pointless. He's trying to keep himself relevant in a world that there's many people doing his job for now. Back then he was, but it ultimately, down to the base, is a journalist. Historically, journalists are scumbags.
Not like MJF. Not like an MJF scumbag. A legit scumbag.
Full on scumbag. Reason maybe Dave Meltzer was brought in for this is because it's a non-biased view. It should have been a non-biased view in honesty. Does he show an unbiased view in honesty? Probably at some points, but at other points, no.
Definitely not.
But I think that's why he's been brought in. I think that's why he was in it, because he was the guy for wrestling news and backstage
you were there
stuff.
covering it, essentially, weren't you?
He was the only one really doing it before the longs of Brian Alvarez and everybody else. Us, he's been doing it for years and years. He was probably the first guy on the internet doing it. And he was the one that set up the chat rooms and stuff back then on the Wrestling Observer. So, but yeah, he's still a melt.
It's what?
He needs to realise he's not the only one doing it now. So don't have to suck up.
He's an
Be your own man.
But yeah,
I can't stand him more than anyone.
I've said it before, mate. I don't look at any of that sort of stuff. I don't take anything they did. We used to compare my votes, star rating, and his star rating. Then it became very, very clear that he favoritizes AEW because for some reason WWE won't let him in. But final thoughts overall, though.
There's nothing new we really didn't know.
Any opinion changed on Mr. McMahon himself? No?
Like I said at the start, I think it was two different people at one point, and then the people merged. So that's my thoughts.
Mine's
same pervy weirdo than he was before.
Same. I think he used that character to get his portrayal of the sick people out there. His sick the first way out there. Yeah. My opinions slightly changed on other people, which I've already covered.
Going to them.
But it's done him no good. I think it originally started to be a let's make Vince look good.
I think it was at one point a fluff piece on Vince. Is a fluff piece which
let's make Vince look good.
Yeah, sorry. It's a
but when you delve deeper, then it doesn't help. But if you're going to go watch it, let us know your thoughts in the comments below, what you think of it. Now, if you're going to watch it with somebody that's not a full-time wrestling fan, let them make their own opinions up before you fact check everything they say. Let them do their own thought, because the last thing you want to do is go in and pull someone in. I've done it. I watched it with Zoe. She asked questions as we went along. Did this happen? Did that happen? And stuff like that. And let them make their own opinions. Let them make their own opinions on it. But yeah, let us know in the comments what you think. It was a good, interesting documentary, though. Very interesting. And next time something like that comes out, I'll try and watch it quicker for you. Is that all right?
Yeah, we knew everything in it, but a few odd things. I think it's easy to throw people under the bus that aren't there to defend themselves. Pat Patterson.
Yeah.
One. Opinion on Bret Hart. We have our opinions, like John's just said. That's the best thing.
I don't like him as a wrestler. Don't like him as a wrestler still, but my opinion has changed a little bit on him.
That's why this works, is because we have different opinions. But no, I learned nothing new, like proper new, that I'm really shocked about. But don't ever turn around and say wrestling fans don't care that wrestlers die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause
I
it's
obviously I missed what you said because I got a phone call and I'd obviously muted my mic, but I'd circle back around. Bray Wyatt is a prime example. Go and watch our videos, just our videos. Since Bray's passing, probably gets mentioned every week on one of our videos.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
guys,
last night on Raw for me.
Yeah.
Right.
I've seen you get hypnotized by the advert for the Fiend.
Yeah.
You were full on hypnotized. When I was still in the chat, you were full on hypnotized by the screen when the Fiend came on.
The Fiend?
Yeah, they advertised in the DLC.
Oh yeah, I'm pissed off about that.
When they did it on SmackDown a few weeks ago, and I was in your stream, Matt, I was like, "What's that?" Because I could hear the music. Like, "What's that?" I need to know what that is because I'm not watching it. What is that? We care about them. We care greatly about them. But guys, till next time.
Peace.
Peace. Oh, it's me in it, so.